The lie was supposed to be for one night. A perfect, handsome actor hired to play the part of my loving husband for my family. He played the role beautifully, too beautifully. The problem is, the night is over. The applause has faded, and he is still here in my house. The email confirmation felt like a deal with the devil. Julian Croft, confirmed, social companion services. It was a discreet, absurdly expensive service for people in impossible situations. My situation was a Category 5 hurricane of impossible. My parents' 50th wedding anniversary, a grand, ostentatious affair, was in 3 days. And my husband of 5 years, Mark, had chosen this exact week to announce he was leaving me for his 22-year-old yoga instructor. My family, a dynasty of judgmental traditionalists who prided themselves on perfect marriages, could never... No, admitting my failure was not an option. So I did the only thing a desperate, proud woman could do. I decided to hire a lie. Our first meeting was at a quiet, anonymous coffee shop. Julian was more than the photos on the agency's website suggested. He was devastatingly handsome, with intelligent, perceptive eyes that seemed to see right through. And me, he was a chameleon, a professional. He didn't just ask questions. He conducted an interview, his voice a low, soothing baritone. "Tell me about Mark," he said, taking notes in a small leather-bound book. His mannerisms, the way he holds your hand. The stories he tells your father. I gave him everything. I handed him the blueprint of my husband, the intimate details of my marriage. I showed him photos. I described Mark's laugh, the specific way he would touch the small of my back when guiding me through a crowd. The psychological seduction was immediate and potent. Julian wasn't just offering a service. He was offering a perfect temporary reality. He was a craftsman, and my life was his new project. His confidence was intoxicating. He absorbed every detail, his mind a steel trap. "Don't worry, Alara," he said, his voice laced with a dark, thrilling confidence. "By Saturday night, I won't just be playing your husband. I will be him." The way he said it sent a chill down my spine that was equal parts terror and a strange, unwilling excitement. I was giving a stranger the keys to my life, inviting him to wear my husband's skin. I told myself it was for one night, a single, flawless performance to get me through an impossible weekend. I had no idea that I wasn't just hiring an actor for a role. I was auditioning my own replacement. The night of the party was a masterclass in performance. When Julian arrived at my door, he was no longer Julian, the actor. He was Mark, my Mark. He wore the navy blue suit I had laid out for him. He had the same subtle scent of cedarwood cologne. And he greeted me with a soft, familiar kiss on the cheek that was so perfectly executed it made my breath catch in my throat. "You look beautiful, honey," he murmured, his voice a perfect echo of my husband's. For a moment, the line between the lie and reality blurred in my own mind. Walking into the grand, noisy ballroom on his arm, I felt a strange sense of calm. He was flawless. He navigated my family with the ease of a man who had known them for years. He laughed at my father's terrible jokes. He charmed my critical aunts. He even remembered the name of my cousin's dog. He was a better version of my husband, more attentive, more engaging, more present. He would lean in and whisper private, joke in my ear, his breath warm against my skin, and I would feel a genuine, thrilling blush rise to my cheeks. The guilt was a constant, humming presence beneath the surface, a dull ache of my own massive deception. but it was overshadowed by the intoxicating relief of the performance. For one night, I didn't have a failed marriage. I had this perfect, handsome, adoring man by my side. The slow dance was the turning point. As he led me to the floor, his hand resting firmly on the small of my back, just as I had taught him, the fantasy began to feel dangerously real. He held me close, our bodies moving as one, his eyes never leaving mine. "See," he whispered, his voice a low, seductive rumble that was all Julian, not Mark. "This feels right, doesn't it?" My heart hammered against my ribs. This was not in the script. I tried to pull back slightly to create a space between us, but his grip was firm. "Relax, Alara," he murmured. "Just enjoy the moment. Give them a good show." He was. Right, our family was watching, their faces beaming with approval. We were the perfect couple, the image of a happy, successful marriage. I leaned my head against his shoulder, closing my eyes, letting the music and the lie wash over me. In that moment, held in the arms of a handsome stranger who was playing the part of my husband, I felt a dangerous, unwilling thought surface. I didn't want the night to end. I was falling in love with the lie and with the man who was telling it so beautifully. The party ended just after midnight. The drive home was quiet, a stark contrast to the noisy celebration. I was exhausted, my social mask beginning to crack, revealing the raw nerves underneath. The arrangement was over. The performance had been a success. Now all that was left was the awkward transactional part, paying him and sending him on his way. When we walked into my dark, silent house, I flicked on the lights and turned to him, my purse in my hand. "You were incredible, Julian," I said, my voice all business. "I can't thank you enough. Here's the final payment, as we agreed." I extended the envelope of cash to him. He didn't take it. He just smiled, a slow, easy smile that didn't reach his eyes. He took off his suit jacket, tossing it casually over the back of my armchair, Mark's armchair. "Payment?" he asked, his voice light, conversational. "Honey, you don't pay your husband for coming to your parents' anniversary party?" A cold, terrifying chill snaked its way up my spine. "The joke's over, Julian," I said, my voice sharp. "You were great. Now it's time to go." He chuckled, a low, unnerving sound. He walked into my kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and pulled out the bottle of water I always kept for Mark. "Tough crowd tonight," he said, taking a long drink. "Your Aunt Carol is a real piece of work, isn't she?" He was talking as if he had a right to be here, a right to an opinion on my family. The emotional collapse began then, a slow, creeping dread that was turning my blood to ice. "Stop it," I whispered, my voice trembling. "Stop this, you're scaring me." He walked back into the living room, his expression turning serious. He came to stand in front of me, his gaze intense. "I'm not trying to scare you, Alara. I'm just trying to understand why my own wife is trying to kick me out of our house." This was the true betrayal, the real cheating scene. It wasn't a physical act. It was a psychological invasion. He was taking the lie we had built together, and he was trying to imprison me within it. He was using the intimate details I had given him, the very keys to my life, to lock me in with him. I saw it then, the dangerous, obsessive glint in his eyes. He wasn't an actor who had gotten lost in the role. He was a predator who had found his perfect prey, a woman who had willingly invited him into her life and given him the perfect cover story. He had no intention of leaving. The performance wasn't over. For him, it had just begun, and I was trapped on stage with him. The next 24 hours were a waking nightmare, a slow burn psychological war fought within the four walls of my own home. I tried everything. I pleaded, I reasoned, I yelled. Nothing worked. Julian remained maddeningly, terrifyingly in character. He would counter my frantic pleas with a calm, concerned expression, treating me like a hysterical woman who was having a breakdown. "Honey, you're not making any sense," he'd say, his voice full of mock sympathy. "You had a little too much to drink at the party. You just need to rest." He was gaslighting me, using the lie I had created as a weapon to make me question my own sanity. My emotional storm was a tempest of fear and fury. I was a prisoner in my own house, held captive by a man who was wearing my husband's face. When I threatened to call the police, he just smiled that cold, confident smile. "And what will you tell them, Alara?" he asked, his voice dangerously soft. "That your husband won't leave his own home? Who do you think they'll believe? The charming, devoted man your entire family just spent an evening adoring? Or the frantic, unstable wife who is suddenly claiming he's an imposter? I have the keys you gave me. My clothes are in the closet. Your family has 100 photos of us together from tonight. You wanted me to be him? Congratulations, I am." He had me. He had trapped me so completely in my own web of deceit that any attempt to escape would only make me look insane. He began to subtly, systematically take over my life. He answered my phone, telling my friends I was under the weather. He spoke to my neighbor over the garden fence, discussing the weather like he'd lived here for years. He was not just performing as my husband. He was erasing him, seamlessly editing himself into the fabric of my reality. My breakdown came that evening. I was locked in my bedroom, my body trembling, trying to figure a way out. I called my real husband, Mark, my fingers shaking as I dialed. He answered, his voice cold and distant. I started to sob, a desperate, incoherent plea for help. "Mark, you have to come home. There's a man in our house. He won't leave." There was a long, cold silence on the other end of the line. "Goodbye, Alara," he said, his voice flat. "Whatever twisted game you're playing now, I want no part of it." He hung up. He thought I was lying, that I was trying to manipulate him into coming back. Julian had not only trapped me, he had completely isolated me. The hard choice became devastatingly clear. I could not fight this lie with the truth, because I was the one who had created the lie in the first place. To save myself, I couldn't just expose him. I had to expose myself. The breakdown in my bedroom was not an end. It was a catalyst. The fear and helplessness crystallized into a cold, sharp, and diamond-hard resolve. Julian thought he had won because he had trapped me in a logical paradox. He was a performer, and he thought I was his captive audience. He didn't realize that I could write a new final act to his play. My revenge wouldn't be a quiet phone call to the police. It would be a public spectacle. I would fight his performance with a bigger, better, and more devastating performance of my own. The next morning, I was a different person. The fear was gone, replaced by a chilling, sweet calm. I walked into the kitchen where Julian was making coffee, and I smiled. "You're right, honey," I said, my voice dripping with affection. "I'm so sorry about yesterday. I was just exhausted." He looked at me, surprised. Then a slow, triumphant smile spread across his face. He thought he had broken me. He had no idea I was just getting into character, I was thinking, I continued, we should have my parents over for brunch. 2. Thank them for the wonderful party. His eyes lit up. A bigger audience, a chance to solidify his role. That's a wonderful idea, he said, kissing my forehead. My parents arrived at noon. I had set the table beautifully. Julian was in his element, the perfect son-in-law, charming my mother, talking politics with my father. I let the performance play out for a full hour. Then, as I was pouring coffee, I let the cup tremble in my hand, and I let out a small, terrified sob. Instantly, all eyes were on me. Julian rushed to my side. Alara, honey, what is it? He asked, his voice a perfect performance of concern. I looked at my parents, my eyes wide with a carefully practiced fear. And then I delivered my monologue. Mom, Dad, I whispered, my voice breaking. I have a terrible confession to make. Mark left me last week. My parents gasped. Julian froze, a look of pure confusion on his face. I was so ashamed, I couldn't bear to tell you, I continued, the tears now flowing freely. So I did something crazy. I hired an actor to pretend to be my husband for your party. This man is an actor. His name is Julian. I turned to Julian, whose charming smile had been replaced by a mask of dawning horror. The performance was brilliant, Julian. Truly, but the show is over now. There's no one left to fool. The breakdown was his. It was magnificent. The color drained from his face. He was speechless. Without an audience who believed his lie, he was nothing. He was just a stranger in a room full of my angry, confused family. My father, a man you do not trifle with, stood up, his eyes blazing. Get out of my daughter's house, he said, his voice a low, dangerous growl. Julian didn't need to be told twice. He fled, a pathetic, exposed fraud, his grand performance ending in a humiliating, silent retreat. I was left in the ruins, facing the messy, painful, and humiliating task of explaining my own lies to my family. But I was free. I had built a prison of lies to protect my pride, and when my captor tried to lock me in, I had burned the entire prison to the ground. I hired a stranger to play the part of my perfect husband, and he tried to steal my life. To save myself, I had to confess my own desperate lie to the world and shatter my own perfect image. So tell me, when you're trapped in a lie of your own making, is the only way to find freedom to burn everything, including yourself, to the ground?